that is futile. Soon the machines will do it for you. And so you've demoralized an entire generation and told them that they can look forward to basically being pets to the machines or to billionaires with machines. Okay, if that actually comes true, nightmare. But if it doesn't come true, then you've enfeebled this generation. They did not hit the ground running. And so that is even worse to me, right? Like you never get the godlike AI. You never get the superpower brain chip. All you get is, a fluffy dream and a whole lot of atrophied human beings. That's the real nightmare. And that's what I hope can be countered. And it can be. I really do believe that.
This is Jonathan Pedro. Welcome to the Symbolic World. Hello, everyone. I am excited to be here with Joe Allen. Joe Allen is the author of the book Dark Eon. He's also a tech editor on Steve Bannon's War Room. And he's going to help us think through all the things tech and all the things transhuman that are transpiring around us today. So, Joe, thanks for talking to me.
Very good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, my first question is going to be a very broad one. There are so many things happening simultaneously right now, with the kind of explosion of AI in the actual models to to Trump saying he's going to deregulate AI as much as possible, investing in the Stargate project, with Musk being in the White House. There's just it's just crazy. What is the thing that is grabbing your attention the most, that you think is what we need to be paying attention to the most?
The duality of this administration is really striking from my perspective. Many of the issues that I voted for Trump on the basis of, he's seems to be coming through for us on the border, slashing a lot of the wasteful government spending, a fraction of it anyway. And, of course, doing away with DEI, affirmative action, these sorts of things. To me, these are all positives. But, I covered this for the majority of 2024, this influence by tech accelerationists. Peter Thiel's been with him from the beginning, since back in 2015-16. But then you have Musk coming on board. You have Mark Andreessen coming on board. There's always been that element, and I've always tried to beat it into the heads of my listeners and readers that transhumanism isn't some globalist thing. It's not some left-wing thing. It's always had a kind of right-wing flavor from even the Nietzschean origins, but also you've got Nick Land, people like this that are not liberal. So it's not like this comes as a surprise. To the chagrin of the War Room audience, I was banging on this drum that Trump is going to be a mixed bag. And, on one half of that bag is all the things that we want to see happen in America, the possibility of preserving the republic. And on the other hand, you have red, white, and blue demons clawing their way into the earth to get rare earth minerals and, develop massive artificial intelligence infrastructure that will watch your every move and become a godlike entity for machine worshipers. So, it's a little half and half.
Yeah, I think that's something that we can dive into, and it would be interesting to think about it because, there is, of course, the left-wing aspect of transhumanism, which has to do with this vision of progress, this vision that there's a relationship between scientific and technical progress and moral progress, and the idea of making it possible to be more and more idiosyncratic and less, less and less connected to the traditional hierarchies and be able to do whatever you want. And so you can see these aspects of transhumanism in kind of the biological modifications of the bodies with obviously transgender stuff, but then also body modification in terms of the more aesthetic aspect. All of these things definitely do connect with AI, and also the idea of kind of being whatever you want online in the metaverse, of the avatar. But what would you see? What is the connection to the more kind of right-wing or more conservative aspect that leads into transhumanism?
Well, you know, just to address that really quickly, the notion of progress, both technical and moral progress, moving forward, so to speak, in tandem, it's more capitalist progress than Marxist or communist progress. Not to say that there aren't communists who I would classify as transhumanists, but it is definitely techno-capital driving it, so that even someone that, like Martine Rothblatt, is probably the most outspoken on the connection between transgenderism and transhumanism. But Rothblatt is close to a billionaire, if not a billionaire. You know, Rothblatt came from the tech world, developed Sirius XM, all these sorts of things. So, you know, I think that it is progressive, right? It sees history, especially the singularitarians, see history as this exponential increase in sophisticated technology, so on and so forth. But it is, by and large, a capitalist vision of that. So that is, to the extent, you know, left and right, you've talked about this at length, left and right are very slippery terms and very fuzzy conceptually. They don't make sense in the same ways that they did, you know, during the French Revolution, right? So, but to the extent that you would say that right wing is more free market, that right wing is more nationalist, or that right wing is in some sense traditionalist in regard to, say, gender. A good example of the latter, of gender norms, gender normativity, and transhumanism would be the Enhanced Olympics that Peter Thiel is funding and many others. This is, especially from a masculine point of view, very gender normative, in which, you know, the traits, the masculine traits, are being emphasized by way of technology, whether it's, you know, you're juicing steroids or any other sort of like body modification, augmentation. Another example would be the sort of quasi-porn starlet of Fox News, right? Like, these women, you know, some of them are naturally beautiful, but, you know, by and large, the culture coming out of Hollywood of augmentation, creating an aesthetic, a feminine aesthetic in and of itself, you might not call that transhuman, I would, but it is on that spectrum of like normativity. Now, real quick, you know, with nationalism, Peter Thiel, very much an American nationalist. Mark Andreessen, I think, at least, you know, more recently, an American nationalist, and certainly anti-communist, certainly anti-China. And Elon Musk, as much of he is really a trickster figure, a kind of Luciferian, you know, tongue-in-cheek Luciferian sort of figure. But I don't think that he is 100% disingenuous when he says that he wants to see America become great. Right? I don't know about a great again. He seems to be much more forward-thinking. But I do think that by throwing in his chips, a 250 million of them, with Trump, that it does signal a legitimate dedication to America, so this sort of nationalism. So yeah, I mean, the transhumanism, you know, this desire to use science and technology to go beyond the human, is transpolitical. It's transnational. There are, you know, people like to wag an accusing finger at the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and Yuval Harari, but these are mouthpieces. These are people doing PR. You know, the real transhumanists are something else. You know, both the philosophical transhumanists and the ones in Silicon Valley, at Google, at Meta, you know, in these massive companies that are making it possible to, if not go beyond the human, at least hold that myth out that we can go beyond the human and, you know, give us some reasonable facsimile of the cyborg.
So let me play devil's advocate for a little while. People who watch me know what I probably think, but, you know, why is that a problem? Let's play it out. Like, why is it a problem? Why is transhumanism a threat to us? Why wouldn't we want to be more than human? Like, why, you know, what is it about us, the more kind of traditional thinkers who see that as an issue and related to a kind of idolatry? But like, what would be the argument for it? Like, why is it bad? I'm not sure. Like, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, you know, if you're making billions of dollars or if you want to become a slave to the machine, it's a great thing. But I think the
No,
number
but no,
one.
work that out. Like what
Yeah.
you're saying is that it's what transhumanism will do will be create an elite that will be more than any of many more of an elite than anything we've seen until now.
Yeah, they say rising tides lift all boats, but something tells me that we're going to be in the little puttering motorboats while they're in the yachts. Excuse me. I think that the number one issue I have with the concept of transhumanism isn't that it's not that people want to do this. People have all sorts of desires. I'm not trying to stand in the way of them. To the extent they affect me or my family or my community or my country, then it becomes my problem too, right? And so one of the central features of the kind of current wave of AI hype is the concept of human replacement, the greater replacement. It's very similar, I think, to the issue of mass immigration.
Yeah.
You have this alien swarm coming in to both displace the workers of a nation, to subvert their political power, by watering it down, diluting it by a group that is easily manipulated. And in the case of public discourse, the same artificial intelligence fits that. And the aversion to artificial intelligence, these alien minds, and the aversion to especially humanoid robots, that weird, creepy feeling you get, is very similar to racism. And you hear these arguments from pro-transhumanists. They say speciesism is racism towards technology. And in a way, they're correct, but I am an unapologetic human racist or speciesist. And even if I don't want to see all the robots rounded up and sent away to, space, not that I would argue with it, but I think that there needs to be that suspicion, because the people pushing this, it's the most bizarre sales pitch one could imagine. We are going to solve physics, the theory of everything. We are going to advance human technology. We are going to become godlike, going to cure cancer, become quasi-immortals, and also we're going to replace every human role in society and possibly kill everyone. It's a very strange sales pitch, but that's what they're going with.
Yeah.
From Elon Musk to Google to Anthropic, even like more conservative people like Jan LeCun, the chief AI scientist at Meta, they all talk in terms of creating this artificial general intelligence that will be smarter than any human being on Earth, maybe smarter than the collective of all human beings on Earth. And that the creation of this will not only demote humans on the great chain of being to being either pets or biofuel or whatever we end up being to this being, and that, descending from the creation of this technology, and you already see indications of it with just the regular old artificial narrow intelligence we have now, descending from that, you get the capacity to read the human brain, to manipulate the human brain, to create sophisticated brain implants or even non-invasive brain interfaces that would allow us to communicate directly with these alien minds and fuse with them like symbiotes. You have the capacity, like all these humanoid robots you're seeing everywhere. The reason that speed is so fierce is because artificial intelligence allows for a kind of flexible computing that accelerates the development of it. And so the assumption is that post-AGI, the world is flooded with these robots, whether they're humanoid or any other shape. And then, of course, the physical manipulation of the body is also accelerated. You see that with AlphaFold and other kind of similar AIs that accelerate the process of sequencing the genome, predicting what any kind of mutation in that genome will do to the proteins downstream and then the body downstream. So all of it comes down, right? Like this massive transformation. Number one problem, the greater replacement to me. Number two is this, just coming from the background I do, you can't escape the sense that, as many of them say, they are bringing to life the myths of the ancients. You think Icarus or Talos. You think the Golem. And you think of any of the science fiction that emerged from, a century plus ago, especially, say, Rossum's Universal Robots, where the word even comes from. In all of those, some instinct in the human mind, or some direct insight into the nature of humanity in the future, whatever the cause, there is this darkness embedded in those myths, an anti-human darkness. And I think that to deny that and accept any kind of utopian point of view would be beyond naive. I don't think these people who are creating these systems have our best interests in mind ultimately. Mm-hmm. And so whenever they start talking about we, as in we humanity are creating this and this is what it's going to do for us, humanity, I don't hear that. I hear us as in this small group of people who are either ideologically invested or financially invested or both in creating artificial intelligence and transforming the civilizations of the world. There's may not be any stopping that, but the more we can carve out space to preserve what we do hold sacred, the better off we are.
Mm-hmm. This is it, folks. This might just be the culmination of my life's work. Join me for the Symbolism Masterclass this April 2025. During this course, I'll take you by the hand into the essentials and depth of symbolic thinking. Over 6 weeks and over 18 hours of lectures and Q&As in a concise and comprehensive way, I'll teach you everything about how I think so that by the end, you might see the world anew. This class will not only be an introduction, but also a deep dive into a way of seeing that cuts right through our secular dead end. It reconnects the ancient religious ideas with some of the most cutting-edge notions of complexity developed today. As the world is shaking and changing at an increasingly rapid pace, being able to read the patterns of reality will give you an anchor and a solid sense of what is up and what is down. In this class, we will talk about so many things about heaven and earth, the sacred and the secular, the Bible, dragons, demons, fairies. We'll explore the surprising value of conspiracy theories, how symbolic patterns are found in movies, in science, philosophy, art. We'll look at the relationship of symbolism to natural selection. We'll look at the basic patterns of the world, of sacrifice, of the center, the margin, the masculine, the feminine, the mountain. Time and space, left and right. It will be a synthesis of everything I've covered in the 500 YouTube videos that I put out over the years, and much more as well. Now all in a structure that has one purpose, which is to make you a master of symbolic thinking. This is your opportunity to get to the core of what symbolism is, to ask questions, to test out your ideas, and to make sure you have a strong foundation of the fundamentals, plus getting some hidden gems that I've never shared before. So don't miss out on the live experience and register today. Of course, as usual, patrons at the involved level or plus get 10% off indefinitely, but also if you sign up before April 6th, you can get 15% off with the code MASTERCLASS1. And so I will see all of you in class. Tell me what you think about this, is that what I see, because it is in some ways such a weird contradiction to realize that the AI is promised to us as being the thing that will solve all our problems, while simultaneously being the thing that will overrun us, And it's interesting because it is in some ways, it's like an image of sin or like an image of the passions themselves, because we deal with that little on a smaller level all the time, right? It's like, the person that reaches out for the bottle, or every time you lie, you have that double thing playing in your mind, which is, I'm going to engage in this behavior because it's going to give me more power in the moment. It's going to give me something that will increase my reach. But I also secretly know that thing that I'm putting out in the world always has the danger of then overwhelming me, like coming back and eating me. Especially a lie is a good example, right? It's like when you lie, you kind of secretly know that, okay, I'm putting that out there, but I've just put out something that will maybe devour me later in time. And the other thing maybe I want to put out there and hear your answer is, I also seem to see it as a playing out the revolutionary trope in extremis, right? There's a sense in which, since we've embarked on this revolutionary pattern, right, since the French Revolution downstream, there's a pattern in revolution, which is that if I can rise up and take the power from that which is above me and install myself in that place, there's almost like a secret thought that comes into your mind, which is that, oh, that means that which serves me at some point has to rise up and take my place. It's almost like in doing that, in rising up and taking the power from those that are there, like through force, I have this sense that, well, that inevitably is going to happen to me, and that seems to be inscribed, in Hesiod's Theogony, in the myth of Prometheus. All of these seems to be inscribed in those stories. So I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think that's beautifully put. Absolutely. It's a very curious thing, this notion of succession, this notion that Richard Sutton, Google AI, former Google AI, maybe one of the most articulate and morbid, I would say, about this. The idea that these beings are a new species, a new form of life, and that we have no choice in the immediate future but to become symbiotic with it, like their mitochondria or something. But in the long view, that they will inevitably become much, much smarter than us, which, the sales pitch we're getting right now is by 2030. They'll outlive us, and they will ultimately be kinder and less prone to sin than us, is this idea. And so what we have to do is just kind of sit back and relax and let it all happen, ride the singularity like a roller coaster that never drops. It goes up and up and up and up and up. But we, eventually, the bars will come off and we'll just fall off and it will keep going up without us. But we have to be okay with that. It's this strange mixture within the broader transhumanist and posthumanist movement of this like fierce ego. Like, you talk to any transhumanist or hear them speak, they're usually like really, really egotistical people. There are as many singularities or not singularities in the future as there are fevered egos predicting them, right? Like these guys, and then this notion too of becoming an immortal, of gaining these godlike powers. That's all obviously ego-driven. And yet, for a lot of them, not all of them, but for a lot of them, there is this notion of succession that we're just in a process in which maybe we will continue on in post-human forms, or maybe we don't. Maybe we're doing this selflessly to create a more perfect being, recreating Eden, basically, in which lab techs and computer scientists are Yahweh, and these machines are Adam and Eve, which was a motif from Rossum's Universal Robots. And I myself think that you should never, ever take these people at face value. Like any of their predictions, any of their promises, any of their warnings, not to say they're 100% not true, but you look at the history of futurism, no single vision ever captured the future. Usually any science fiction writer or futurist of any sort, going back to H.G. Wells and going forward, they get certain things right, but mostly as a whole, they don't. Some of which, the reason for that sometimes is because they created this vision and we chose not to go down that path. But so, looking just to that notion of succession, I do find those who do hold to that sense. Hugo de Garis is one of my favorites on this because he is such a strange, autistic, morbid person that he doesn't hold back at all. And he talks about the development of these systems, these godlike artificial intelligence systems, or he calls them artilects, which is kind of corny boomer word smush. But for him, he's just open about it. This is a religion. We are creating what all religions dreamt of gods. Well, they didn't exist. We will make them exist. And most likely it will yield gigadeath, the destruction of most or maybe even all humans. But ultimately, it has to happen because the only thing worth living for is to create godlike artificial intelligence systems and terraform the entire cosmos with intelligence and computronium. And it's, he is a good example of just a dogged egotist, but his vision is one of just total selflessness, total self-annihilation. It's very weird. It's very off-putting. And even if Mark Zuckerberg doesn't believe exactly this, or Elon Musk doesn't believe exactly this, it is this sort of thinking is the primary foundation for the actions of the wealthiest men on the planet that are supported by the most powerful governments on the planet. And we are in many ways at the mercy of lunatics. But hey, what else is new?
So the again, to play the devil's advocate, but also to kind of bring about what I've been saying is sometimes I try to explain the idea that there's a principality that is running this thing, that in fact, because everybody's wondering whether or not there is such a thing as artificial consciousness, or whether or not these machines are going to be conscious and whether or not they're going to have will and intent. And my take is usually to pull back one step and say we can already see will and intent. It's not in the machine itself. It's in the very arms race that is bringing it about, because it is wild to think that we're following people that are predicting our downfall and just kind of doing it as if this is a normal thing to do, but in that space, so that's what I see. I see like a will that is bringing this about, that's kind of bringing this body to fruition. But there is, in that strain, there is also the reality, which is that it doesn't depend on any of those people. And there is that reality, which can be a cynical take, but is nonetheless true, that if we don't do it, someone else will. Like if we don't do this, then China will. And which one would you rather have? Would you rather have the American AI or the Chinese AI? And so how do you see all of that?
The hardest question is the question of competition, international competition, or even within our own country, right? If Harris and Walz had won, aside from having transgender children everywhere and stoking racial animosity and empowering it, you would have had the OpenAIs, Microsofts, Googles. They would have had the favor of the administration. Right. It would have been a kind of rainbow-colored singularity, so to speak. And instead, we get the red, white, and blue singularity. Mm-hmm. Now, I should be clear, too, by the way. I'm not a singularitarian. I get it. I understand it. I don't. Metaphorically, I think, in a sense, we are in a Werner Vinge version of it, seeing that take place. But anyway, just to say that I'm being kind of half joking when I say it. But instead, we get this red, white, and blue singularity, right? We get Musk at the forefront of it, or we get the same tech overlords, but they are at least, they've been brought to heel to some extent. Yeah, they have to pay homage to Trump and therefore to America, who by and large they seem to be very condescending towards. Or then outside of that, you have China, right? And China has been this perpetual specter driving American acceleration. Even a kind of liberal like Eric Schmidt is always talking about how it needs to be an American AI revolution, not a Chinese one. Well, China has always been nipping at our heels, so to speak. I say I'm not making this stuff. America's heels. And China, yes, they have actually done some impressive things. DeepSeek R1 was more efficient, but they probably lied about how much compute they used to create it. They probably lied about how much money they poured in. And all these statements that, that its capacities are better than OpenAI's or even, XAI's products. Not really. This is leaner, but just all this is to say that China is only keeping up with us. And because of all of the technology transfer and IP theft, most of what they do is derivative of us. So but we're creating it, they're copying it. And so this arms race is entirely centered in America, right? Like we're at the forefront of it, and we're basically, through diffusion, spreading it around the planet with a few exceptions, with a few systems and a few techniques. So, you don't want communist China to develop godlike AI and start telling us what to do. But ultimately, it is an American thing. It's an American issue. So therefore, it's an American responsibility. And I think what I would like to see, okay, maybe there is no stopping it, right? Maybe genie's out of the bottle, so to speak. Cow's out of the barn. Ship done sailed. Okay, if that's the case, at the very least, what we need is leadership that is always talking about it in terms of defending human dignity, defending human freedom, and defending humanity in general from this. And that's not what we're getting from Trump and Vance at all. They are either naive or something else, but that's not what we're getting. And that's at the very least what we want. Now, ultimately, I think what I'd like to see would be some sort of kind of global awakening around this, not to lead to some Kaczynskiite violent revolution, but absolutely to, if you have most people on the planet who understand that whatever gets spit out, whatever deformed being is spit out the other end of this process, that it is not necessarily your friend, right? And to the extent it's not conscious and it's just a mechanism, it's not anybody's friend. It's this bizarre soulless golem. And that needs to be, in my opinion, at the forefront of everyone's minds as we undergo this, because reality is that ship has sailed and it's sailing faster and faster, and stopping it is probably an unrealistic option. And so surviving it, living with it, without succumbing, without losing our own souls, without losing our own dignity, has to be a top priority. And it's not going to happen if the top leadership is allowing Elon Musk to drive the kind of mythical vision of the world or of the country. And yeah, so the competition thing is very difficult, especially in regard to warfare, because if it is true that advanced artificial intelligence will dominate the battlefields, drone swarms and AI-guided missiles that spin a bazillion different directions and find their target, nuclear armaments that both the detection systems and the retaliatory strikes are under the control of artificial intelligence. If it turns out that that's where we're heading, then yeah, you don't want China to be at the forefront. You don't want Russia to be at the forefront. Do you want America and Israel to be at the forefront? I mean, if you're an American or an Israeli, maybe. But again, who knows what the future holds? Who knows if if in the future these sort of automated armies really are superior to well-trained, well-coordinated, technologically enhanced, but not totally robotic human beings? Who knows? We'll find out. That to me, the really important thing is it's not about like who's going to win, because it's very clear who's going to win: billionaires and the machines at their behest. What needs to be done, to me, is just a kind of fundamental shift in the general attitude of the populace, so that they are not looking to these people for salvation, nor are they trembling in fear at the possibility that they're going to wreak destruction on all of us, but to try your best with a kind of dark background to your world, as humanity has done throughout history, to try to be that brave Hebrew in the desert with Egypt at your heels, to be that brave Christian under Nero, or you ain't going to like this one, but to be a Cathar under the Orthodox Church. And understand that you're not going to be in alignment with the powers and principalities, but you will be able to live out a life of dignity, and your soul is going to go on anyway. But perhaps even down here on earth, your children or your mind children will also survive. But I've never been one for good pep talks. I'm trying.
It's good. So the difficulty is, I guess I'm gonna I will dampen your pep talk. So one of the issues, of course, with technology is that nobody ultimately ends up owning it. That is, as soon as the power is there, then the power is available to whoever has the capacity to wield it. And that's one of the biggest issues with technology ever. And it's also true of AI. And so, we saw already not that long ago in COVID what the fusion of tech and corporate interest and attention power, how that comes together. And like, at least here in Canada, one of the things that we did see is that the only reason why their desire to create absolute control through digital identity and digital passports and all this stuff, the only reason why it failed is because they're the government and they suck at they're inefficient. Like, they're completely inefficient and they're corrupt, and therefore, because of that reason, they were never really able to instigate the system of control that they were trying to put into place. It's funny because now, like, the app that they used, to kind of control everybody it still exists. And when you go to the airport, like, nobody even wants to use it. Like, you can see there's like a line for people that have used the app, but nobody wants to use it. But what I'm saying is that as this technology becomes more and more powerful, maybe now with Trump in power, maybe we won't have that. But maybe, not just maybe, certainly, in the next 4, if not 8 years, then things swing, and then we get another way of thinking that has the same power, that it has all the efficiency that Elon Musk brought to the government, now at it, like, in its hand.
Yeah, it's that point in particular. You build a machine, it's not assured that you're going to be the one piloting it in the future. Someone else can get control of it. And you saw that after 9/11. It could be argued that there was a kind of uniparty, that the Patriot Act and mass surveillance and all that was a uniparty effort, and that's true. But it was, I'm not one to say that it's like one single cabal. It's a lot of different cabals. So, and you did see that shift in power. You're now seeing it with Trump. It was very strange, the whole 2020. I know this is going on YouTube, but be very careful with my words. But the so-called Great Reset, right? Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum chairman, described 2016 the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is basically like cheap corporate pamphlet version of transhumanism, right? Mm-hmm. The fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identities. And, so it was very strange then. You had the Great Reset, basically arguing that this is a narrow window of opportunity to, in essence, either entice or force people to adopt all these technologies we would have never wanted to begin with. Digital identity, mass surveillance, contact tracing, forced medication. And it's very weird. I've been joking lately because you had all these voices rising up, not just against leftism or globalism or socialism, but the evil transhumanists at the World Economic Forum. There was this constant, I don't know what you would call it. It was kind of a slogan of sorts, certainly a smear. And it was very weird because, the difference between evil transhumanism and good American technology, so far as I can tell, is about 6 months. All the same people who talked about it in terms of abstract, either moral or pragmatic dangers of this, fusion of human beings with artificial intelligence and the brain chips and the, genetic engineering and the robots and all this. And like, not everybody has jumped on board, but like, without calling out all the names, a lot of people, suddenly it's like, oh no, this is, Elon Musk is in control of it. Trump will make sure that nothing bad happens. Like, dude, do you not remember 2020? He's not magic, and if he is, it's not necessarily white magic, so you can't trust that. It's very, very strange. I feel like I've kind of riffed myself into a corner here. I'm not really sure where I was going, other than to say that,
No, but I think what you're trying to suggest is that it feels sometimes that a trick has been pulled on us, that we've had a trick. We've had the people that were against all of the transhuman tropes in culture have now, because their political allies seem to be embracing ultimately exactly the same tech and exactly the same vision, have now come on board in a very odd way. It's that the person that complained that COVID was about digital identity and the idea of fusing humans, like making them kind of cyborg type creatures, are now embracing someone who wants to put chips in your brain. And so it is. I agree. I don't totally understand what it is that happened and how it's happening.
And also, but just on that note with Musk, at scale, people are always like, oh, he just wants to heal people. He wants to, make the lame walk and the blind see. Yeah, he does want that, but he's very open that the kind of transhumanist formula of from healing to enhancement is the goal. And in his discussion with Bibi Netanyahu, this was this is September of 2023, and he's repeated it elsewhere. He's like, yeah, if 100 million or billions of people, if hundreds of millions or billions of people got a direct brain interface to their AI tertiary self, that would be better for the world. That's not about healing. Like, this vision is abhorrent at best and stupid at worst. Like, who's to say that it'll even work? Like, if you have the population, this is one of my biggest nightmares, right? It's not that the singularity will hit and suddenly the machines will take control and we'll just be riding along. My biggest fear is that, like so many other technical advancements in human history, the downsides are tremendous, and oftentimes the upsides really aren't there, and oftentimes it's stupid. It's like really, really stupid. The rollout of television, for instance. I mean, yeah, no, it's great. I like TV and all, but I mean, not really. But to me, it can't be denied that ended up turning an entire generation, or a huge portion of an entire generation, into couch potatoes.
Yeah.
The advent of junk food, that represented technical progress. OxyContin, that was technical progress, but what did it do? And so, in the same way with artificial intelligence and the mythos around it, the mythos that every dream you had of becoming something in society, some vocation that you are passionate about, whether it's an artist or an artisan, whether it's a machinist, whether it's a programmer, that is futile. Soon the machines will do it for you. And so you've demoralized an entire generation and told them that they can look forward to basically being pets to the machines or to billionaires with machines. Okay, if that actually comes true, nightmare. But if it doesn't come true, then you've enfeebled this generation. They did not hit the ground running. And so that is even worse to me, right? Like you never get the godlike AI. You never get the superpower brain chip. All you get is, a fluffy dream and a whole lot of atrophied human beings. That's the real nightmare. And that's what I hope can be countered. And it can be. I really do believe that.
Hello, everyone. I'm here to invite you to the Orthodox Arts Festival. Richard and I are going to come down to Dallas. It is on the first weekend of May. It is going to be an absolute blast. I will be giving a keynote. I'll be also participating in a Q&A. Richard will be speaking. I've heard that Justin Marler of Death to the World fame will be there talking about Death to the World things. And who else, Richard?
He'll be talking with Bishop Garazim.
Oof. That's amazing.
Yeah. So like that'll be super cool. It's a festival. There's going to be a lot of, I'm going to be there speaking about writing fiction as an Orthodox Christian. We're going to have a concert from the St. Cassini Chorale, which is sort of our local DFW area, North Texas Pan-Orthodox choir. We're going to there's going to be food, there's going to be dance. It's going to be just a really incredible 3 days. So it's the first weekend in May, so the 2nd through the 4th, and you should come.
Where is it?
Yeah, that's a good question to ask. It's at Saints Constantine and Helen Orthodox Church, Antiochian Orthodox Church in Carrollton, Texas, so North Dallas area.
And so, yeah. So all the artists, if you are interested in Orthodoxy and culture, interested in either liturgical art or how Orthodox thinking, how the Orthodox symbolism can also be applied to other aspects of culture, this is the place to come. We're hoping for a lot of wonderful, intelligent people to be there. So it won't just be us giving conferences, but we'll be around, we'll be involved in the conversation, we'll be hanging out with everybody, and we hope that a lot of fruitful things will come out of this.
And there will be also children's activities on some of the days. So you can look at the website for that. It's orthodoxartsfestivaldfw.com.
All right. Orthodox Arts Festival, dfw.com. Everyone, we cannot wait to see you there.
See you there.
All right, this is going to be my last question. It's going to be the wildest one and the one that I also am still kind of figuring out. One of the things that hit me the most in the past few months is, around the time of the inauguration when Trump stood there with Altman and Ellison, and I forget the other one.
Matsuyoshi-san.
Yeah. And he announced Project Stargate. And I couldn't believe that they were naming this AI infrastructure project Project Stargate. And so I don't know. I mean, what's your insight? What the hell are they doing? Why? Like, there is a kind of conspiracy theory mythology about the connection, between CIA's remote viewing project, the AI stuff, the UFOs, UAP stuff. All of this is there. It's kind of bubbling around in the conspiracy space. And here they are naming this infrastructure Project Stargate. What are they doing?
It's one of many. They're playing with fire, both temporal and eternal. So I met someone who, anyway, I'm going to leave that aside. Stargate, conceptually speaking, you've got three different zones. You've got the Stargate project, right? Larry Ellison of Oracle, Sam Altman of OpenAI, and Masa Yoshi-san of SoftBank. All three of which say they believe that artificial general and then artificial superintelligence is just around the corner, and they're going to be the ones to build it. Digital gods, right? Some of the wealthiest, most powerful men on the earth building digital gods. And you've got Larry Ellison, who, Oracle has its origins with the CIA, many contracts with the CIA now. And Ellison openly saying in I think it was in an analyst, or it was some sort of Oracle financial meeting last fall, and then more recently in Dubai and other venues, saying, in essence, that one of the good things about artificial intelligence is mass surveillance, that you would be able to rake in, you're already sucking in all this data, it would give you the capacity to make sense of it for the purpose of making people behave better. Again, the role of gods, traditionally, except for this is much more tangible and comes with a subscription plan. And then, I think probably one of the more disturbing elements, too, is the megalomania of it. So Ellison recently was talking about how, ideally you would have one centralized hub for an AI or AIs where all the data in America would be centralized, so that you could, of course, cure cancer and make everything better, but also ultimately you're talking about building a kind of mind of God on earth. This is classic. Like, when you think of AI agents, you should think of intelligence agents, as in spooks, as in, it should always feel, whenever there's a device around, it should always feel like there's some weird pale dude sitting in the chair next to you, watching you and taking notes. You hit the bathroom, you hit the bedroom, this guy's like, he's behind you every step of the way. It should always feel like that in the back of your head. He should always be in your mind. So that's what they're talking about. How does that relate to the Project Stargate, right? Of the remote viewing program? That
even just the movie and the TV series, like, it's just all these
yeah.
images
So
coming to your mind.
how does it relate? I mean, what was the purpose of those remote viewing programs? To take human beings, capitalize on or exploit their psychic powers, purported psychic powers, so they could spy at a distance on adversaries, so that you would have this superhuman ability or a human ability that most people don't have, to see things that you're not supposed to see and invade the privacy of others that you're not necessarily supposed to, whether it's a nuclear arsenal, the stockpile, or Vladimir Putin sitting on the toilet, whatever it is. And so, conceptually speaking, it's basically the same thing. You go back just real quick. I'll tie this up real quick. You look, the Stargate conspiracy, and then the Stargate film, right? I saw your talk on this, by the way, and I agree. Stargate the film was really cheesy, although when Raw finally does emerge, it is kind of creepy. But this notion of these portals to other worlds, alien worlds, and you are bringing aliens, who we call gods, into the earthly realm. It fits all of those, because they always talk about this in terms of like an alien intelligence. And it is ultimately an alien intelligence. And now you've got the Ellisons of the world and the Musk of the world and so on and so forth. They're not talking about it as like an alien intelligence you're going to, jerk out of his flying saucer and turn him into a slave. I mean, some do. But more and more, they're talking about like you're gonna bring that flying saucer down and you're gonna beg for your life. And again, the weirdest sales pitch ever. I can't even believe this. People haven't already risen up and said no, enough is enough. But I guess one of the great things about being in control of the technological surveillance apparatus is you always know what people are thinking. At least in the aggregate. And so it's pretty easy to tailor your rhetoric and your behavior to that psychological profile. It must be really invigorating.
Yeah,
it must be very easy to sleep at night when you think you know what everybody's thinking.
Yeah, but man, I get it though. Like how can I say this? Like I've been trying out Grok 3, for the past few days since it's been out, and my goodness, like it's hard not to be fascinated because it does feel like all of a sudden you're like a magician with all these powers. Like it is like giving you these things on the tips of your fingers that, as someone like a 19-year-old person in college, like you had to work for entire weeks just to touch, And so there is this like weird fascination that is hard to deny, even though I obviously I agree with everything you said, and that I agree with that. But I'm always trying to kind of understand what's happening. But I can see how it really is in some ways, it is in some ways the image of sin, or the image of the magician's nephew, which is, it's this capacity we have to trade immediate power, and discount the future, and to not want to look at what it's going to do. It's like when you're having that fourth drink or whatever, and you're like all now and nothing tomorrow. Like I don't want to think about how I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. It's just like this is real. Like this is happening and is giving me this power now. So so I kind of get why people are just moving blindly into this, because it is doing things.
The greatest power that AI offers the average man is to become one dead battery away from being a moron. Yeah. Just outsource that. Outsource all of it.
Mind completely.
Yeah, you're nothing but a host to the algorithmic parasite. It's great. It's the future, man. Yeah. I myself, look, we're on the same wavelength on this, that it's really important to preserve the body and the mind, the brain. But what we're really seeing unfold is, the reality of divinity is the ultimate. All of this is going to fall away. This is ultimately an illusion, because it's not going to last. It will be as if these bodies didn't exist. The most important is the divine and all of the powers and intelligences that descend from the divine. And this physical world is just kind of, now I don't want to get too far out in assuming how you think about this, but this physical world is a manifestation of far more pristine and beautiful forms, and that's why it's so beautiful. But it's physical, and so it rots, and it smells weird, and so it's, there's a downside to it. But what we see with the creation of humanoids, of these alien intelligences, and in a more, I guess, visceral sense, like with the creation of, right now, phenotypically modified humans, but maybe in the near future, actual genetically modified humans at scale, what we're seeing is a kind of weird black mirror, a weird reflection of those divine forms that, right now it's like we look down into Grok. We look into the eyes of Grok, which is basically, a soulless black mirror in our hand. And we see ourselves reflected in it, humanity as a whole, or at least big portions of it, and it has the feel of something, because it is immaterial, an immaterial intelligence. But what I see is just in the same way that I don't want to, again, I'm not a hard Neoplatonist or anything, but in the same way that these forms have become instantiated in the physical here, they're being driven ever deeper. These intelligences are basically becoming ever more material. now in data centers and in silicon and electrons flying around in them. And it is ultimately, if I can leave you with this, I think, obvious Antichrist material, right? Like this is, if you look at the root of Antichrist, yes, against Christ, but also in place of Christ. Mm-hmm. And what this is a material replica of everything Christ is supposed to be. Infinite knowledge, infinite wisdom, healing, even kindness and compassion, ultimate unity, all these sorts of things, or at least, depending on your denomination, unity of many and the burning of the rest, which is kind of what this feels like, this new Antichrist version of it. And I think that, again, like who knows how powerful it'll get? Who knows how real these predictions will actually be in the physical world? But so long as that is the defining mythos of the developed world, that the ultimate achievement is to create digital God and to transform humanity accordingly, then it is the spirit of Antichrist made so utterly real that you shouldn't necessarily go into the woods and disappear into a bunker because we'll miss you, but you definitely don't take the mark, okay? Just don't do it. This is my parting recommendation to your audience. I know many were probably planning on it. Just, don't do it. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Joe. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it, and we'll definitely look to another time to talk about all this as we see. This is happening so fast. Everything's happening super fast, and so we need to pay attention. So everyone, check out Joe's book, Dark Ion, and he's also on Bannon's War Room. And do you have a website, a place where people can get all your stuff?
Yeah, joebot.xyz, and if anyone in the audience is interested in the book, Dark Aeon or Eon or Ion, Dark AEON.xyz, signed copies. I'll even draw a cartoon if you ask.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Joe. It's good to talk to you.
Tremendous respect for you, Jonathan. I really, really appreciate you having me.